Some say it is a crucial crime deterrent. Others say it mainly serves to discriminate. Virginia state lawmakers are debating the future of mandatory minimum sentencing.
In tonight's Problem Solvers investigation, our Laura French explores the debate over mandatory minimum sentencing. Who's for it? Who's against it? And the one type of crime that is excluded from a bill to end it.
When I first heard this was coming to the floor, I couldn't even breathe.
From more than 120 miles away in her Northern Virginia home, Vicki Johnson intently watches lawmakers in the state capitol.
It's distressing and absolutely breaks my heart to even think that we're sitting at a table discussing it.
As this mother who has asked us not to show her face,
that day changed our lives forever,
nears a painful anniversary.
February 27th, 2000 was when a predator showed up in our neighborhood and abducted my daughter. She was only 13 years old.
Johnson's 13-year-old daughter had been communicating online with someone she thought was a 14-year-old boy, but it was actually a 36-year-old man.
He had her for over 5.5 hours, during which time he brutally raped her, beat her, sodomized her. When he was done with her, he put her back in his truck, drove her to a country road, and dropped her off.
Donald Lee Williams Jr., who has an extensive criminal record, would be sentenced to 87 years in prison, with all but 14 years suspended for sex crimes against Johnson's daughter and another teen in Williamsburg. He was released in 2013, but investigators say the now 57-year-old is back in custody in Norfolk for attempting to victimize who he thought was another child in 2019. He faces charges that, if convicted, carry mandatory minimum sentences.
Mandatory minimums really don't work very well. They tend to be over-inclusive, and they don't take into account the specifics of a crime or the specifics of a victim or the individual circumstances that might have led someone to commit the crime that they did.
Democratic State Senator Scott Surville and other members of the Virginia Crime Commission voted in December to endorse what is now Senate Bill 1443, sponsored by Senator John Edwards, that would eliminate more than 220 mandatory minimum sentences from state code, excluding Class 1 felonies. But it includes multiple offenses against children, and it would also allow some prisoners already serving mandatory sentences to petition the court to reconsider their sentence.
It's just inconceivable that they would even consider allowing this to happen, because it's going to crush family upon family upon family who have fought to change the law so that justice can be served.
It says to victims that you don't matter. And over and over again, we're seeing the criminals themselves treated as the victims in this process by our colleagues in the Democratic Party. They continue to go out of their way to treat criminals as their number one priority.
The problem, mandatory minimum sentences tend to insert the judgment of the state legislature in the place of a judge or what used to be a jury. And, in Virginia, we've always been a state that prides herself on her civil rights.
But for Vicki Johnson, she says her number one priority is to protect her family while they live out the life sentence they didn't ask for 21 years ago.
Well, when he was sentenced, he said the last words leaving the courtroom was, "When I get out, I'm going to find you and your daughter, and I'm going to kill you because you're the reason I got caught." And so it's never ending. It goes on for the rest of your life. And I think that's the message we need to make. It's not 7 years or 14 years or 87 years. It's basically changed our lives forever.
The bill has been introduced and is expected to get a hearing soon. The governor says he will carefully review the legislation if and when it reaches his desk. Working for you, Laura French, CBS 6 News.